they were established were just absolutely horrible. And we'll talk some more about that, about the number of people, and you'll see monuments here that talks about the 96 people that died during the construction process. That's not an accurate count. We'll explain that later. But the workers attempted to unionize. And, of course, some of the group that was trying to unionize was a communist group. And if you go back in your history, this is when the Soviet Union was fairly new, and the whole idea of providing work relief for the people was basically coming out of the communist parties. And thus, that made it anti-American, and the six companies capitalized on that. They basically took anybody who tried to unionize was fired. Now, that also has a very chilling effect because they were also providing the housing. So if you're fired, you've lost your house, your family has to move out. I mean, it's a big, big mess, and they were able to pull this off. They were doing things such as during the tunneling process, there is a statement in Nevada law that says you cannot operate gasoline and diesel engines in the tunnels because of all the carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide that's going to be in there. They said, we're not mining, we're doing construction. Therefore, it doesn't count. And therefore, they operated the equipment in there. And many people were in the hospitals because of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide poisoning, if you will, from working in those confined areas. Again, not the greatest stories from a health viewpoint. We got the challenges to the project. We got 100-degree plus temperatures we already talked about, but we have a 24-hour construction schedule. When I first read this, I said, ooh, I think I'll work the night shift. But the problem with working the night shift is you're sleeping in the heat of the day. There was one place that provided relief, and that was the movie theater. The movie theater in Boulder City was air conditioned. So what happened was a lot of the guys, as soon as they got off work, would go supposedly to watch whatever it is, go to sleep sitting in the chair, trying to keep relief. Saw a lot of movies, but didn't know one of them. That's what it would be like working on the night shift. And that's kind of the lighting from back in that time. And you'll see a lot of things going on about the details. Prohibition is still in force. Majority of the crimes were drunkenness. And Las Vegas hasn't changed a whole lot. Guys who work in 2 weeks, have their paychecks, run to Las Vegas, come back, hoping they had enough gas in the car so they could get back to work. And so you have the drunkenness problems. You did have a state-of-the-art orthopedic center. Dorms, if you lived in the dorms, were $160 a day. And if you had the married housing, it would cost you $30 a day. That would be what it would be like in the dorms, if you will. And those are not beer bottles, by the way. So drinking was prohibited on the job site, as it was in really the whole country. Of course, you got money, you can find places to get your booze. Dining hall areas, that's how they would take the people to work. Just pile them on those, and away we go. The aggregates, and now getting more into the concrete part of it. They found an alluvial deposit about 6 miles upstream that they could excavate by drag line. And then they would move the rock by rail to the wash plants in Nevada. And here you see the trains coming in with the aggregates. Keep that in the back of your mind because you'll see that again. Screening, they use 4 sieves. I know many of you have probably used some computer programs if you're running a batch plant where you're putting together multiple aggregate sizes to get a maximum mix design. That was a technique that was used back then. A lot of this research was done at the University of California, Berkeley, to come up with a very effective mix design. Now, we're talking about rocks that would just ruin pumps but they were using cobbles up to 9-inch diameter on this. Fines, intermediate, coarse, and then the big stuff. If it was over 9 inches, they would crush it, screen it, and then move it to the batch plant. The first batch plant was operational in 1932, basically worked for the tunnels, and the first concrete was in the dam in 1933. They were moving at lightning speed. They added a second batch plant that produced all the concrete for the top plant. We like to think central batch plants are kind of a new concept. They used them back then. They had a modern batching facility, and I go to some rural spots, and I still see this technique of weighing it out, certainly not computerized controlling. There's a central batch plant. These were a whopping 4 cubic yards, and they would produce 24 cubic yards every 3 minutes. They had races between the night shift and the day shift. Who could produce the most concrete? 10,000 cubic yard is the daily record, if you will, on that. What did they get for a prize? They got a pat on the back. You can do it again tomorrow. They blended the aggregates for economy and workmanship. They used a type 4 cement, that if you go into the cement chemistry, is very slow reacting strength. They increased the amount of C2S so that the strength gain would be slow, less heat. That was what they're trying to get away from it as they were doing the construction process. The mix is a 4-sack mix. A sack is 94 pounds roughly. Maximum size aggregate. Water cement ratios we would not use today. 0.58 water cement ratios. Here is the mix design in detail. 380 pounds of cement. A lot of the research that I was checking on this, about half of it will say there's fly ash in it. The other half will say there is none. And this is from the official mix design that was used. I finally was able to locate it. There is no fly ash in it. Matter of fact, there is no chemicals in this concrete whatsoever. Water cement ratio 0.58, no air entrainment, no water reducers. Slump as delivered, 3 inches, about 156 density. That's a fairly heavy concrete, but again, there's no air in the concrete. It has survived pretty well, as you can see. Strength, 28-day strength, a little bit over 3,000. 1-year strength, a little bit over 4,000. And modulus elasticity and Poisson's ratio, if you're an engineer, you might be excited about that. For most of us, we don't care. Concrete moved to the job site, and that was what Crowe was able to put together, this aerial system. You saw some of that as we were coming in. These buckets would be 4 and 8 cubic yard buckets, and they would be able to move the concrete very quickly within minutes, getting it from the batch plant to where it was needed. They also use a technique of vibrating the concrete, which is a relatively new concept. And you can see some of the vibrators there, obviously pretty big vibrators as they were doing.